The evening sun slowly sank beneath the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the city that Resian had always called home. The streets were alive with movement, cars passing, people talking, life continuing as it always had. Day. But for Resian, something felt different. There was a quiet heaviness in her heart, a feeling she could not fully explain. She stood by the window, her eyes fixed on the familiar world outside. Every corner of the city held a memory, laughter with friends. Dreams whispered in silence, plans for a future she had already begun to imagine. It was a place where she felt she belonged, a place where her dreams felt possible. But now, that sense of belonging was slowly fading. Inside the house, the atmosphere had changed. The laughter was gone, replaced by silence and unspoken tension. Her father had made a decision, one that would change everything. They were leaving, not just for a visit, not temporarily, but completely. Resian wanted to speak. She wanted to ask questions, to argue, to hold on to the life she knew. But the words refused to come. Instead, she remained still, watching as the sun disappeared, taking with it the last moments of the life she once knew. Deep down, she understood one thing clearly: this was the beginning of a journey she was not ready for. A journey that would test her strength, challenge her beliefs, and force her to confront a world very different from the one she had always known. Inside their home, the silence felt heavier than ever before. The walls, once filled with laughter and warmth, now seemed distant and unfamiliar. Every room carried memories, shared meals, quiet conversations, moments of joy that now felt like they belonged to another time. Resian walked slowly through the house, her fingers brushing against the furniture, as if trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. Her father moved with quiet determination, focused and unshaken. To him, this decision was necessary. He believed it was the right step for the family, a move towards something better. But what he did not see was the silent storm building inside his daughters. Their fears, their doubts, their unspoken resistance, all hidden beneath the surface. Tayo tried to remain calm. She carried herself with quiet strength, offering small smiles and gentle words, as though she could soften the reality of what was happening. But even she could not hide the uncertainty in her eyes. She understood that this journey would not be easy, yet she chose to believe that something good could still come from it. Resian, however, struggled to accept it. Her dreams had always been tied to the life she was leaving behind. The city represented opportunity, education, freedom. The unknown future ahead felt like a threat to everything she had hoped for. As night fell, the house grew quieter. The final hours before departure approached. And in that silence, one truth became impossible to ignore: everything was about to change, whether they were ready or not. Resian stood by the window, her fingers lightly touching the glass. She looked at the streets she loved, the life she understood. She wanted to speak, to protest, to hold on to what was hers, but the words stayed trapped inside her. All she could do was watch. As the journey continued, the city slowly disappeared behind them, replaced by wide open spaces that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The familiar noise of traffic faded into silence, broken only by the hum of the moving vehicle and the occasional whisper of wind against the windows. Resian sat quietly, her thoughts drifting between the past she had left behind and the uncertain future ahead. The landscape outside changed gradually. Tall buildings gave way to open fields, and paved roads slowly turned into dusty paths. Everything felt distant and unfamiliar. Each mile they traveled seemed to carry her further away from the life she had once imagined for herself. A life filled with education, opportunity, and independence. Tayo, seated beside her, watched the changing scenery with a different perspective. Where Resian saw loss, Tayo tried to see possibility. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes scanning the vast land, as if searching for something hopeful within it. But even she could not ignore the weight of what they were leaving behind. Their friends, their school, their sense of belonging, it all felt like it was fading into memory. Resian closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. She wanted to be strong. She wanted to believe that this journey might lead to something meaningful. But the uncertainty was overwhelming. For the first time, she realized something important. Sometimes life changes without asking for permission. And when it does, the only choice left is to face it, whether you are ready or not. Hours passed, and the journey seemed endless. The sun climbed higher into the sky, casting a warm glow across the vast landscape. The land around them appeared both beautiful and intimidating, with its wide open spaces and distant horizons that seemed to stretch forever. Resian watched, in silence, as her surroundings continued to change. The air felt different here, drier, quieter, almost heavier. It was a place untouched by the fast-paced rhythm of the city, a place where life moved according to a different set of rules. Their father remained focused, his eyes fixed ahead, as if he already saw the future waiting for them. To him, this journey was not a loss, but a step forward. A chance to rebuild, to start again. But Resian could not share that vision. Not yet. Tayo, however, tried to bridge the gap between the past and the future. She spoke occasionally, pointing out the beauty of the land, the way the sunlight danced across the grass, the elegance of the acacia trees standing tall against the sky. Her words were gentle, meant to comfort, to remind Resian that even in change, there could be something worth holding on to. But comfort was not enough. Resian's heart was still tied to the life she had left behind. Every thought returned to what she had lost: her dreams, her plans, her sense of control. And yet, deep within her, a small voice began to grow, a voice that whispered something unexpected. That perhaps, within this unfamiliar world, there was still something waiting to be discovered. By the time they reached narrated, the sun had begun its slow descent toward the horizon. The golden light spread across the savannah, illuminating the land in a way that felt almost magical. It was a beauty that could not be ignored, a quiet, natural elegance that spoke of something ancient and enduring. But for Resian, beauty alone was not enough to ease the heaviness in her heart. As she stepped out of the vehicle, the reality of her new surroundings settled in fully. The air was still, the silence deeper than anything she had ever experienced before. Their new home stood nearby, simple and modest, built in a style she was not used to. It lacked the familiarity of their city house, the comfort of what she once called normal. She hesitated before stepping forward, as though crossing an invisible line between her old life and the new one she was being forced to accept. Tayo, on the other hand, moved with quiet curiosity. She observed everything: the layout of the land, the people nearby, the rhythm of life that seemed to flow naturally within the environment. Their father appeared satisfied. To him, this place represented stability, tradition, and a future grounded in something deeper than the fast-moving city life. But for Resian, it felt like the opposite. It felt like limitation. And as she stood there, looking at the endless savannah before her, One thought became clear: this place would challenge her in ways she had never imagined. The first days in their new home passed slowly, each moment filled with adjustment and quiet observation. Life in the village followed a rhythm that was completely different from what Resian had known before. There was no rush, no urgency, no constant movement like in the city. Instead, everything seemed to flow at its own pace, guided by tradition and routine. Resian found it difficult to adapt. The silence felt overwhelming at times, and the absence of familiar distractions left her alone with her thoughts. She often found herself thinking about her old life, her school, her friends, the dreams she had begun to build. Tayo, however, approached things differently. She immersed herself in the environment, taking time to understand the people and their way of life. She listened carefully, observed closely, and slowly began to connect with the community around them. And within that system, she began to see her place. A place she was not comfortable with. A place she was not willing to accept. As days turned into weeks, Resian's awareness of her surroundings deepened. What once felt unfamiliar began to reveal its structure, its rules, and its expectations. The more she observed, the more she understood that this was not just a different place, it was a different way of thinking entirely. Girls in the community were expected to behave in certain ways. Their futures were often decided long before they had the chance to choose for themselves. Education, for many, was not a priority. Instead, tradition defined their path. This realization unsettled Resian deeply. She had always believed in something different. She believed in the power of education, in the ability to shape one's own future, in the idea that dreams were worth fighting for. But here, those beliefs felt out of place. Tayo noticed the change in her sister. She saw the frustration, the quiet anger building beneath the surface. And though she understood it, she also knew the danger of openly challenging the system around them. "Be careful," she once said gently. But Resian could not ignore what she was seeing, because to remain silent felt like accepting something she knew was wrong. Tayo's voice became a source of light in their environment. When she sang Pigerd, her music carried emotion, telling stories that words alone could not express. For a moment, the weight of tradition seemed to soften, replaced by something more human, more connected. Resian watched her sister with a mixture of admiration and concern. Tayo had found a way to adapt without losing herself. She used her talent to connect, to belong, to create space within a system that did not always allow freedom. But even that space had limits. Because beneath the beauty of music and culture, there were expectations that could not be ignored. Expectations that would soon become impossible to avoid. Resian began to hear Whisper's quiet conversations that stopped when she approached. Words spoken in low tones, carrying meaning she could not fully understand at first. But slowly, the truth began to reveal itself. There was a tradition, one that every girl was expected to undergo. A tradition that was deeply rooted, widely accepted, and rarely questioned. When Resian finally understood what it meant, a deep sense of fear and disbelief settled inside her. This was not something she could accept, not now, not ever. The realization weighed heavily on Resian's mind. She could not ignore it, no matter how much she tried. Every conversation, every glance, every quiet whisper seemed to point back to the same truth. There was an expectation placed upon her, a path that had already been decided. And it was not the path she had chosen for herself. She began to question everything: the traditions, the silence, the acceptance of something that felt so deeply wrong to her. Why did no one speak against it? Why did everyone accept it as normal? The questions filled her thoughts, refusing to fade. Tayo tried to calm her, reminding her that change does not come easily, especially in a place where tradition holds such power. But Resian's spirit was not one that could easily bend. She had always believed in standing for what was right, even when it was difficult. And now, she found herself facing one of the greatest challenges of her life. A choice between silence and resistance, between acceptance and courage. And deep within her heart, She already knew which path she would choose. The days that followed were filled with a quiet tension that Resian could no longer ignore. What had once been whispers in the background now felt like a looming reality closing in around her. Conversations would pause when she entered a room. Glances were exchanged in silence. It was as if everyone knew something she was only beginning to understand. Resian spent more time alone, trying to make sense of everything. She would sit beneath the wide acacia trees, staring into the distance as the wind moved gently through the tall grass. The Savannah, once unfamiliar, now felt like a silent witness to her thoughts. She replayed every conversation in her mind, searching for answers. But the more she thought about it, the clearer it became this was not something she could escape easily. Tayo remained calm, but even her calmness carried a quiet worry. She had begun to sense the direction things were taking. She understood the traditions more deeply than Resian, and that understanding made her cautious. Sometimes, Tayo said softly one evening, we must choose our battles carefully. But Resian could not accept that. To her, this was not just a battle, it was her life. And she was not willing to let it be decided for her. As the pressure from the community slowly grew stronger, Resian began to feel the weight of expectation pressing down on her. It was no longer hidden. It was no longer unspoken. It was becoming real. Women in the village spoke to her in subtle ways, their words carrying layers of meaning beneath polite conversation. They spoke of tradition, of maturity, of becoming a complete woman. To them, it was a natural step, something to be accepted without question. But to Resian it felt like something else entirely. Something she could not agree with. She found herself withdrawing more and more, choosing silence over conversation, distance over connection. Not because she wanted to isolate herself, but because she felt misunderstood. Her father, too, began to show signs of expectation. Though he did not speak directly about it, his actions suggested acceptance of the tradition. To him, this was part of their culture, something to be respected, not challenged. That realization hurt Resian deeply, because it meant that, even within her own home, she stood alone. The distance between Resian and her father grew quietly, but steadily. What was once a relationship, built on trust and understanding, now felt strained, weighed down by unspoken disagreement. She wanted to talk to him. She wanted to explain her fears, her beliefs, her refusal to accept what was expected of her. But every time she tried, the words felt too heavy, too complicated to express. Her father, on the other hand, remained firm. He believed he was guiding his family according to what was right. To him, tradition was not something to question, it was something to follow. This difference in perspective created a gap that neither of them knew how to bridge. Tayo often found herself in the middle, trying to maintain peace. She understood both sides in her own way, and that made her position even more difficult. She wanted to support her sister, but she also understood the risks of open resistance. The house, once filled with warmth, now carried an invisible tension that affected everyone. And within that tension, Resian's determination only grew stronger. Despite everything, Tayo continued to bring moments of light into their lives. Her music became more than just a talent, it became a source of comfort, not only for herself, but for those around her. When she sang, people listened. Her voice carried emotion that reached beyond words, creating a connection that felt genuine and powerful. Resian watched her sister closely. She admired her strength, her ability to find balance in a situation that felt impossible. But she also worried, because she knew that even Tayo could not escape what was coming. Her instincts told her that this was connected to everything she had been trying to avoid. She looked at Tayo, searching for reassurance, but for the first time, Tayo did not have answers. There was uncertainty in her eyes, and that uncertainty was enough to confirm Resian's fears. Something was about to change, something they could not ignore any longer. The realization came slowly, but when it did, it was undeniable. The tradition they had heard about, the one that had been whispered in quiet conversations, was now standing directly in front of them. It was no longer a distant idea. It was immediate. How? Resian felt a wave of fear wash over her, stronger than anything she had experienced before. Her thoughts raced, searching for a way out, a way to escape what was being expected of her. But every path seemed blocked. Every option seemed impossible. She turned to Tayo, hoping for guidance, for a plan. But Tayo's silence spoke louder than words. Even she did not know what to do, and in that moment, Resian realized just how serious their situation had become. That night, sleep did not come easily. Resian lay awake, her mind filled with thoughts that refused to settle. Every possibility, every fear, every unanswered question played over and over again in her mind. She thought about her dreams about school, about her future, about the life she had imagined for herself. Was it all about to disappear? The thought was unbearable. She turned, staring into the darkness, feeling the weight of her situation pressing down on her. This was no longer something she could ignore. This was something she had to face. And somehow, she had to find the strength to do it.